Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture with the rogues who create it every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Facebook.com/WeAreRogueMatter, Twitch.tv/WeAreRogueMatter, Twitter.com/Rogue_Matter, and, of course, our main station, YouTube.com/RogueMatter. We then take this video and turn it into the greatest audio podcast you've ever listened to. You can get it on all major podcasting apps. Join the movement. Go Rogue, roguematter.com. Tonight, I got my interview with Meredith from The Office. She is the rogue-est member of The Office, actress Kate Flannery. And that was at Fan Expo Philly. So once again, shout out to Fan Expo for making that happen. We are going to debate The Boys versus Umbrella Academy with a shocking twist midway through it. And we start off, however, talking about all the greatness that is on Rogue Matter. And it ties into some really great news. So without further ado, Rogue Matter presents, first of all, the latest episode of Badass Babes just dropped today, episode 8. So you get that podcast. Brenda and Megan interviewing some awesome talent every single week. Brenda is the head of her own talent agency out there, so she has just such a wealth of knowledge and experience, so go check that out. Then we have Tales from Tundo, which is also out today, and that is a companion podcast to Kingdom of Tundo. So they dive into episode 3. Bevan is the host of that. She is awesome at it. M.A. Del Rosario dives into the mythos behind each issue, some inside secrets. It's an awesome book. So as I kind of mentioned before, Kingdom of Tundo, number 3, just dropped today. And it is Myth and Magic Part 3, Conquest of Self. Bunau Dula fights his nemesis, his vengeful self. As he slowly regains his memories, so does he remember his sins, and he must face them all, including his brothers, to find his lost father in the undead lands of Sulad. If Bunau succeeds, it could tip the scales to his advantage. Again, it's a book that we at Rogue Matter have gotten to read prior to you guys checking it out. We are right in basically the cusp of the middle of the story. It's a 7-issue arc, and so pretty exciting stuff that it dropped. One of the things we like to do on this podcast is do comparables for you. So if you like a certain thing, you will like, what we have going on at Rogue Matter. And Kingdom of Tundo is epic fantasy. So what better comparable than Game of Thrones, right, Hassan?
Right. This is the first time you've introduced me, by the way, since you.
That is very true, actually. I went right through you.
Yeah. But
hello.
Nah, I don't want to say.
I didn't introduce myself either, so that's good. See? It's very fair, at least. Yeah, I am your host, Michael Goldsmith, as always, joined by the Lord of the Lateness himself, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. And yes, Game of Thrones. What better anything to compare anything to, especially something that's considered epic fantasy. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just so happens, which is a nice little tie-in for us, that Game of Thrones news just came out that there is a spin-off sequel coming. Now, we all know the prequel's coming in August. So that's... Are you looking forward to the prequel? Because I actually am. I'm not going to lie. I've seen the trailers for it, and I'm kind of like, you get that, you get the music, the visuals, the graphics, you get like the tone, like the mood of it, and I'm kind of like, all right, yeah, I kind of missed you, Game of Thrones. I want to see some more.
Not to bore you with this answer, but I don't really look forward to anything because I've learned. It's better to say I anticipate it. I definitely will see it. I don't know if I'm enthusiastic about it yet or not.
Okay.
I don't think it shouldn't exist. I'm not one of those people.
No, of course not.
Soon. It's too soon and I'm not one of the people, even though, yes, I do acknowledge the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones was highly problematic and divisive. I'm not, I'm not going to carry that over to this. So yeah. I am, I'm looking forward to giving it the respect it's due and giving it the opportunity to entertain me.
Yeah, I like I said, I wasn't a fan when I heard the announcement of the prequel. Because prequels to me are always there's already a strike against you in the sense that it's like, okay, we kind of know how the story ends already, or we know certain characters, we know who can come in and who can't. So there's a strike against you in my book just by that alone, because it makes it difficult to the sense of gravity to something. They really have to outdo themselves in order to make it, something. For me, this is my own take on
Sort
it.
of, yeah. I know. I don't dispute you. I understand what you're saying. It just, I don't know. It just goes to the theory that the story is only as good as its ending.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're not.
Yeah.
So it's like without giving the ending away, it's like saying I'm never gonna watch Casino Royale again,
Right.
or Skyfall, because
Mhm.
I know how it all ends. So I mean, the ending's not the only thing.
Right.
Sometimes the journey is the thing. So
Right. Well, that's what I'm hoping. And
yeah, if they emphasize the journey, and there is a journey, and it's
yeah.
not like, hey, remember this,
Right.
and remember this,
Right.
and look at the dragon. Aren't
Yeah.
you entertained? If they don't do that, then they might be in good shape.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But like I said, when I saw the actual trailers now on HBO, as I'm watching other things on HBO, I'm like, okay, like I kind of miss you, Game of Thrones. I do. I miss
The
the
trailers look
world.
good.
I miss the world of Game of Thrones.
Yes, I agree. I'm not talking about you when I say this. I am
Yeah.
just I'm settling my expectations, because I don't think anything's gonna hit as hard as Game of Thrones hit.
No.
Because that was a phenomenon, and I
Yeah.
just remember getting swept up in that. Like,
Yep.
what is this? Like,
Yep.
this. And I remember that first episode was like, nah, it's okay. It's kind of,
Right.
it wants to be Lord of the Rings, but I don't think it's got legs.
Mhm.
And then by episode 4, I am halfway through the second book.
Yeah.
So it's it was a profound. It had a profound effect on me, and I'm not gonna carry that baggage for the new one. I'm not gonna put that weight on the new one.
Mhm.
I just want the new one just to be entertaining, but
Yeah.
because it's not gonna ever come close to, not the
No.
show. It could beat the show.
Right.
For pertains to quality and storytelling, whatever. The phenomenon's not gonna be the same.
No,
There's just no
it
way.
can't. It can't. I know. It's like very rarely, I love using music as an analogy. When you first hear that band, for the first time, right? That first album that really hits and really drops.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Many bands can't do that.
Kids
They
today
can't.
don't know what you're talking about, though. Albums.
What's that?
What's an album? No, bands and albums. Kids today
Oh,
don't get it. They don't understand.
don't worry. The kids don't listen to us. We're okay. We're okay. We're good with that.
Just for the random kid passing through the room while their grandfather is listening to our podcast.
Yes.
So they're like, Grandpa, what are you talking? What's a band? what is all this? So
no. I think we're firmly in the grandparents are now like super old kind of category. So I think that's above our demo. I think parents are exactly our demo. Like we are
rounding,
the Facebook
I'm
demo.
rounding up.
We're the Facebook demo. I think that's fair. But no. So one of the things, though, again, seeing these trailers made me miss the world and excited for the world. It makes me now even more receptive to the news that they're going to have a sequel series. Because again, I'm like, all right, this is kind of cool, and we're going to get Jon Snow, and that's kind of cool. So okay, but also Obi-Wan, which just came out recently. I've been hearing a lot of chatter, I've been reading a lot of chatter, how it has helped get rid of the bad taste in the mouth. And I would count myself in there. That were the prequels, right? Having Obi-Wan have competent dialogue this time around, and having a much more like riveting plot. And don't get me wrong, Obi-Wan had a lot of holes in it as well too. Had a lot of issues, but it felt to me, that resolution between Anakin and Obi-Wan, the fight that happened. There's two fights really that happened, but the main finale fight, and warning spoilers for anybody, helped actually, for me, kind of reconcile that Hayden Christensen, yeah, he can be Darth Vader. Because when the prequels were over for me, I never could I couldn't picture Hayden Christensen and Darth Vader being one and the same. Hayden Christensen existing in Darth Vader's body. I felt like there were two separate characters, and they've always been. But that actually helped kind of merge it a little bit. It helped, wipe away the bad taste. So now I'm wondering, all right, Game of Thrones sequel series. What is that going to do to kind of assuage the negative reaction to the series finale that was season 8? We don't know, obviously. We can't know until we see it. But I'm much more receptive to it than I think I would have been originally. I mean, are you of the mindset that this could, in fact, kind of help ease that bad taste, so to speak?
Your preamble to the question answers the question, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the last prequel was 20 years ago and people are still bitching about it. So, no. This ain't going to fix nothing.
It ain't going to fix nothing. All right.
Fix nothing.
So,
it's going to come out. People are either going to love it or hate it. It's going to take a life of its own. 30 years from now, people are going to still talk about those last 2 seasons. Listen, it's the thing. It depends on what you use entertainment for, right? Yeah. Some people like lore, like ongoing narrative, ongoing story.
Mm-hmm.
And the overall, the overall arcing lore that is put together out of, like, say, the MCU. There are people who are just Captain America fans, and there are people who are just MCU fans, right? So, there were people who are Iron Man fans. I just like the Iron Man movies, but so I watched the MCU as long as Iron Man was in it. As soon as Iron Man was gone, I was done.
Yeah.
And then there's MCU fans, right? There's Star Wars fans, and then there's Star Wars sequels fans, or Star Wars original trilogy fans, Star Wars prequel fans. What I happen to feel are, fly-by-night jackasses. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So it depends on the overall.
Would you wait? Hang on. I gotta ask you a question. In your opinion,
I'll be there in a minute. I swear I'll be there in a minute. I'm almost done. The Game of Thrones is the same thing. If you enjoy the overall Game of Thrones, the entire palette of storytelling and lore and characters and the aesthetic of it, and George R.R. Martin, being heavily influenced, then you're gonna get a kick out of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna love the prequel, and you're gonna love the Jon Snow sequel, whatever, and you're gonna forgive the original for how it ended, right? But if you're just one of these fly-by-nighters who are there for a night of entertainment, and who are are into it because their friends are into it, or into it because it's a hip thing to be into, there's nothing wrong with that either, by the way.
Yeah.
Then it's not going to cure anything.
Who do you hold more contempt for? The Star Wars original trilogy fans or the sequel fans?
I don't hold any contempt for any of those fans.
Well, you consider the original trilogy fly-by-nighters.
No, the people who are only fans of one genre, of one era of Star Wars, they're fly-by-nighters, and those are always the ones who are vocal and mocking everybody for enjoying other. That's why I never mock people who enjoy the sequels. I didn't like them, but there are going to be millions of people who really enjoyed them, and they're going to be more and more vocal as time goes on.
Yeah.
So, like, to discount them is to discredit another entire facet of the of the phenomenon that is Star Wars. So I'm not going to do that. I respect them. I don't have to agree with them to respect them and to respect where they're coming from. But I mean, there are people, some of whom may be close by, who 20 years later is still bitching about a movie. That's what I'm saying. It's never going to go away.
What do you categorize as bitching? They go out of their way to
It's just, they go out of their way every opportunity that comes up, or every comparison that they like to make comes up, and they go out of their way to say, "Oh yeah, just like season 6 of Game of Thrones." And those guys are toxic a little bit, because it's not, they're into the trend of the discontent. It's not like they're wrong for being unhappy about it. But if they make it a point of every discussion to bring it up, then that's, they're just being trendy.
Nah, I disagree. I think as long as
I'm
you can
surprised you
absolutely
disagree. What an astonishing.
you can absolutely use something as long as the comparison is apropos. I mean, as long as you're actually comparing apples to
I
apples.
didn't say you couldn't do it. I said when they always do it, that's a difference. There's a big difference. When they use every opportunity they can to do it, and for effect, they do it for effect. And
your argument is as weak as the prequels. No, I'm just see, that was just me.
Wasn't an argument. It's
making a joke.
It's my perspective on it.
Pretty clever. Sometimes
you got to say that your own joke is clever and explain it
even myself with my level of cleverness. You see what I did there? Still got it. Still got it. All right. What do you guys think? Are you guys excited for the Game of Thrones sequel, prequel? Should they just leave well enough alone? Or are you just more excited for Kingdom of Tundo #3, which you can read for free right now?
Read Kingdom of Tundo and leave your comments for someone else. I'm not even going to read your comments. Just read Kingdom of Tundo. That's the relevant thing. That's the thing that's happening right now. That's what's going on.
It's on roguematter.com right now. So you can't go wrong with that. You can download the iOS app. Android app. Check it out. It's like I said, if you like Game of Thrones, if you like Lord of the Rings, for issue 4, we'll do a little Lord of the Rings comparison because I believe Lord of the Rings is going to be pretty big. It's going to take center stage at San Diego Comic-Con, so it's going to time in pretty good with all that stuff that's happening. But go check out Kingdom of Tundo #3. When we come back, Hassan and I will debate and discuss, gun to your head, which show do you choose? The Boys versus Umbrella Academy when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and rogue. Go to roguematter.com, join the movement, roguematter.com. All right. So I got to tell you, I'm in a very interesting headspace this past week or so, because we've just been deluged with content, right? Would you agree that there's a deluge of shows, some that were delayed originally, but all dropping kind of, simultaneously? We've had Obi-Wan and Miss Marvel, and then Stranger Things, part 1 came out, movies. We had Top Gun and Jurassic Park. And then 2 shows are returning. One, I didn't even know was returning. That's how little buzz I heard about Umbrella Academy season 3. But it's back. The Boys season 3 I had heard about leading up to it. I was still kind of surprised when it first came out in terms of the date. I was like, oh, it's out? What? Just because I think there's just a flood of content out there right now, right? So it's to the point where I almost, I get to this point where I'm oversaturated. It's too much content, and things kind of suffer in terms of what am I going to watch? Because like Miss Marvel, I got to be honest, I haven't watched. Have you watched beyond the first episode?
Yes.
Have you watched all of it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I haven't, because I'm kind of like, I'll get to it when I get to it kind of deal. It was cute, but it wasn't, enough to make me want to, it wasn't like must see TV. Right. So now though, we have The Boys and we have Umbrella Academy, and both of these shows are must see TV, in my opinion. They're shows that I can't even tell you how many times this has actually happened, to the point where, Obi-Wan, I watched the first episode. I was like, okay, that's good. The next episode kind of came out. I was like, all right, it's good. But I ended up having 2 or 3 episodes kind of sit in Disney Plus before I started watching it all, leading up to that last episode, which was last week, because it was nice. It was good, but it wasn't like I wasn't dying to see what happened next. Both these shows, The Boys and Umbrella Academy, have got me to the point where I'm like, I need to watch the very next one. I will watch the next one before, as soon as this one ends, I need to watch the next one. So for me, that doesn't happen much anymore. It doesn't happen to the point where the content is actually that good to where I want to instantly start the next episode. You know, it's really it's shocking to me. And that is my shocking twist in all this. You know how much I love doing these comparables, right? This versus stuff. Gun to my head, I don't know I don't know which one I'm going to choose. I don't know which one I would choose, The Boys or The Umbrella Academy, if I had to choose just one. The Boys, to me, I know you feel differently. I don't know why you feel differently about it. You think it's a one-trick pony. I don't actually, though. I think there's a lot of substance to it. I think there's a lot of, this season especially, a lot of social commentary. There's a lot of, again, it is like, what if superheroes really existed? How would they really act? And their opinion on this is that they are not going to be very good people. And in a lot of ways, that mirrors our celebrity culture. So I think that's, very, it's a very plausible comparison, right? So to me, I don't know. I'm like so into this season of The Boys. I think they take it up a notch. And I think the inclusion of Soldier Boy, which is the Captain America, version of that in The Boys, has been spot on and has added an element of intrigue to this season. Because at the end of the day, and this is spoilers for anybody, without going in true detail, Homelander is a scary dude, and I've said this now with anytime he's on screen, he's so menacing on screen. Like I'm consistently like, oh man, what is he going to do? Like, because at any point he literally just light up his eyes and just kill people. He's Superman, right? He is like the Boys version of Superman, except he's kind of, sadistic and psychopathic and narcissistic. I mean, you name it, and he is it. That he's always been menacing, but now they've actually introduced somebody who can challenge him. So to me, I'm always at the edge of my seat in terms of what is happening with him. Now, you probably don't feel the same way, though, because you're not a big Boys fan, though.
I've seen every episode.
Mm-hmm. That's it?
I don't understand The Boys. Like, wait, rewind that. I understand The Boys perfectly. I don't understand the phenomenon behind it, because it's a mocking parody, and people don't seem to get it.
What do you mean?
Because it's one of the more.
No. I mean, I'm curious about what you mean by people don't get that it's a parody. Like, it's obviously a parody, but I think it's established its characters to the point.
You don't know what I'm talking about, and that's what I'm talking about. It's one of the wokest shows that's ever been written, and you guys either don't get it, or because of certain elements of it, you don't care. So it's always a phenomenon to me, where you get like a backlash about the Eternals. And one of the major backlashes that I heard about it, which I really am not going to get into in this, and I'm like, well, isn't that the same as The Boys? Isn't that the same as Homelander? Isn't that the same of what they're saying? No, but I just kind of like it better. So it's not.
So here's the thing, right? I'll give The Boys credit, though,
give me
because what they managed to do, like, you can see the social commentary in it, and
I'm almost certain you don't, because you've already mentioned your facet of it and how you're skewing it, which is fine. I mean, it's open to interpretation. I wouldn't say it's a commentary on celebrity.
At all?
No, not really. I would say it's a commentary on authority and corporate overreach. So that has really nothing to do with like kind of Hollywood. Like people are like putting the Hollywood angle on it. And I mean, every authority figure in this story is a POS, and then not only a POS to the extent of, only being sociopathically hell-bent on the furtherance of their corporation or whatever their ideological bend is. They're also like, they run the trifecta of, racism, sexism, or hedonism, and just out and out sociopathy. Every one of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what is it? What kind of comment is this kind of making on
Well,
authority
I
and
think in general,
or society as a whole? It's one of the more it's so full of political messaging that
yes,
I'm like, why is no one?
I don't disagree. It's full of political messaging, but I actually think that they kind of throw it around, right? I
And
mean,
it's
you
all,
have
and I mean, and all the political messaging is negative.
no. Well, yes, it's negative. Yes,
All
I
of it
agree.
is
It's negative.
negative.
Yes, it is negative, but it's negative to all sides. That's my interpretation because you have stuff you have with the A Train, right? You have his storyline, which is a mirror to what happened in Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? In that sense, you have you bring up the police racism. They do that in the form of Blue Hawk, obviously
Oh no,
what he
no, I'm not.
represents.
I'm not talking about like any particular. I'm talking about every authority figure, every
Yeah.
superhero, every facet of or iconoclastic symbol
Mm-hmm.
of the paragon of society
Mm-hmm.
is secretly a murderous bastard. And so
um.
like and it's that's the statement, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not talking about like you're taking like certain facets of it. But I mean, once you already look at the fact that every one of these people are bent for good and they're not going to be able to straighten out. There are really no nuances to it. That's the
Well,
thing I
that's
don't
not necessarily true either, though, because Starlight is the
I
one character,
she's
right?
not one of yeah, but she's on the outside of
Mm-hmm.
the angle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And she's also, I mean, this season in the last few episodes, she's been coming out a little less bent than
Sure.
everybody else, but that's one character.
Yeah, but she's the one you're rooting for. I mean, that's or supposed to be rooting for, right? But what I
I
was saying before, though, with the political messaging being the reason that it works is it hits everything, right? I think you could look at it
I don't
depending
agree
on.
with you.
I know,
I
but
don't
let me explain what I mean by
I
that, though.
yeah, okay.
Like if you were quote unquote woke, you'd be all for the A Train storyline. You'd be like, see, that's that.
No, you
And then you'd
wouldn't.
see
Why would you?
the obvious analogies with
How is A Train woke? How is
no,
any of
A
that
Train's
woke?
not woke, but I'm saying if you were of the woke mentality that, the police brutality, you're on the progressive left side, right? If you're on that progressive left side, you'd be like, wow, okay, this storyline is exactly it. You would focus on that
No.
storyline and say, yes, I agree with that. And this is a clear analogy, a clear metaphor for police brutality and the eventual outcome that happened in last episode. You'd be like, you would feel good about the outcome in terms of how A Train dealt with it. That's
You would
that's
okay, hold
toward
on.
your
You think a lefty would feel good about a guy being dragged until he died?
yes,
Mm,
absolutely, actually, because they
okay.
say that. I mean, that's political
Nah,
that's
your Twitter lefty says that.
yeah,
That's not
agreed.
ideologically left. Okay,
No, I know. Well,
you don't
that we can get
summarily
into a
execute.
different conversation, but yes, they
Well,
would be the
I
wish
mean, you're
fulfillment end of
talking to
things.
me. We're not talking about we're not talking about unseen angles and other
Well, I'm trying to
percentages.
explain to you why if you would be more geared up or you would see your storyline that you want to see. And that's what I'm trying to say. You would
I
see
know,
your
but I don't.
storyline,
I
right?
I don't. I don't. I don't
You would
agree with
see
the angle that would be a particular person's storyline. That would be a particularly left storyline.
it's definitely a left
Well,
storyline.
he wouldn't be a lefty because he's already an established murderer for 3 seasons. So that's not a that's he's already a bent character, So that's not a
Some
left.
might
And
argue.
then and no.
Yeah.
What he would be doing is he would be taking on the corporate guise of a left issue
Mm-hmm.
and then wearing that as a badge of his own honor with his stolen valor,
Mm-hmm.
and then losing himself and losing his identity in the middle of that when actual people who are actually suffering bring the point up to him. But that would not be a left storyline. That's not
I
that character
disagree.
is not a left character.
No,
Of
I
course
mean,
you
look, the
disagree.
character's got to go through his own journey, which obviously he is going through as it's happening. So it's not a
Hopefully he's
finished.
done with his journey.
What's
But
that?
okay. Hopefully he's done with his journey.
Well, but I'm just saying he is going through his own journey. But the grounds for that storyline would be considered a left storyline. You would also have a left storyline in the sense that you have the obvious Fox News parody that they when they have the Coleman show, whatever his name is, that's obviously it's got the Fox News blue. You've got Homelander, taking on quote unquote cancel culture, and again through the lens where he's supported in the Rust Belt. So a lot of the metaphors are kind of apropos in terms of where we are in politically as a country. But then you also have scenes that I thought were actually, I was kind of shocked, where you have the corporatization of causes, the BLM, BLT, the all-inclusive, amusement park, taking Maeve's sexuality and corporatizing it. I think that's more of a right storyline where you would sit there and say, see, these things are not legit, right? I mean, it's clearly they're trying to sell these things to us. And there's nothing more metaphoric than an amusement park trying to sell you causes. You know what I mean? So
yeah, again, but I mean, that's not something that the left is ignorant to.
I know, but I'm saying
that's not a right or left cause. Like you're saying that's kind of a right perspective, right? Where corporations take but I mean the left doesn't like anything corporate. So
except they expect their corporations to be left. They expect them to be completely
They're not going to spend their money.
We see that with Disney. We see that with Netflix. We see that with
the left doesn't. I mean, you don't understand the left. That's fine.
I absolutely do. I don't think you do anymore. I think that's the problem. There's a left center, and then there's a Twitter, like you said, a Twitter progressive left.
Yeah,
they're the loudest right now.
Yeah, but that's not the left. The Twitter isn't real. We've said that a billion times. I don't know why you keep going back to that metric, but fine. It works. It works to reinforce an argument. It's just not a real metric, which we've already established. So I'm never coming into that using an unreal, unfathomable metric as a point of contention in an argument. But it's okay. It
happens to be the loudest people though right now. I know we say that Twitter doesn't exist and isn't real, but at the same time, corporations bend to Twitter.
There are people
corporations who do real actions.
There are people who say they speak for you. And I think you would be very quick to say they don't. So
that's fair. They might not speak for you personally, Hassan, but I'm saying these storylines.
Yeah, here we go. We'll try this one last time.
Yeah.
We were only talking between you and I.
Okay.
Right? We're only talking about what
until you start talking for everything else too.
I was not.
You go back and forth too, dude. It's not like,
we'll go
not
back
as if you don't.
I said, I don't understand why this is not, these things are not seen in the lens of this story is not seen in the lens of heavy messaging. And that's basically
I don't know
said.
Who doesn't say that it isn't though. And if you're just speaking again, if you're just talking me and you, I'm telling you, yes, it's obviously heavy messaging, but I think it's messaging that depending on what your political persuasion is, you will see the storyline you want to see in it. And I think there's enough on both sides there where you could see it and be like, oh yeah, I can gravitate toward that. And that's probably why when you ask other people outside of just the two of us, why they don't mind the political messaging in it. I think there's enough in there to gravitate depending on what your political point of view is. And that's where I think that's why it works so well, because there is enough in there. It doesn't seem, you say it's the wokest thing, but I actually think there's enough in there where it's not slanted one way or the other. And what it also does, because these people are not very good people, right? I think it gives us a lens to say, I'm not Homelander, I'm not A-Train, I'm not The Deep, I'm not any of these characters. I don't need to be. I'm watching from afar. It's almost a voyeuristic experience when you watch this. At least in my opinion, that's what I see it, because I don't relate to Superman. I'm not Superman. What would I be doing? But I do relate to the fact that, man, if I was annoyed, like every time I watch Homelander, I've said this on screen, he's menacing because I said to myself, man, what if there was a Superman? Like that would be just terrifying. It'd be terrifying to be around somebody that could literally at any point just rip us to shreds if he just so chose. Like when she says to him, and again, spoilers, she says to him like, I'll release the airplane video. And he's like, go ahead. I'll decimate New York. It's like, oh man, he's like that is menacing. That is engaging. Like these characters are engaging. These scenarios that have been set up super engaging to me.
Right.
That's
Okay.
what
If you
I
say
enjoy
so.
about it.
If you say so,
I do.
that's fine.
I do. On the flip side, you have Umbrella Academy, which again I don't understand because season 2, correct me if I'm wrong, got a lot of great press, right? I mean, it was talked about. It was very buzzed about and talked about.
As
Remember?
far as I can remember, I don't. I mean, that was like 2 years ago.
It was
almost
maybe
3
the
years
layoff was
ago.
what killed it. I don't know, but like you even told us last week, you're like, hey, Umbrella Academy already dropped. I'm like, what?
Yeah, but I knew about it. So I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how I like people know about it. I see people talking about it on on a kind of a regular basis. So
yeah, I'm
are you
looking
saying
online now, and it's like, the typical like our biggest finale question.
yeah, but
I mean, there's stuff on it, but
how much are people talking about The Boys? I mean, their Hero-gasm was it they built this up to be a big thing. I haven't
right,
seen very many people talking about it.
right.
So I mean, look, it's just the glut of content that's drowning everything out.
Real quick note before we jump into Umbrella
There you go.
Academy. Do you know what was pretty cool at the end of the Hero-gasm episode? For me, this is a personal story. I'm watching it. First of all, I love the Butcher Homelander Soldier Boy battle was intense for me because I honestly didn't know where they were going to go with the outcome, and because the fact that he can take away, again, spoilers if you haven't seen it, he can take away Homelander's powers. I'm like, oh man, like, are they going to do that? Are they going to straight out kill him? Is he going to get away? He'll probably get away, but at some point this is going to actually impact what happens, and I would love to see Homelander without any powers going forward. I hope that's the outcome of what we get by the end of the season, because I think that's a very interesting path they could take with this guy who basically was God and wouldn't be God anymore. I'd almost hate to see him get killed because I think he's such an amazing actor and character that he portrays. But
well, that's the other issue with the show, right? If they didn't have that character, there would be no show, because there's nothing. The show really has nothing but the menace of Homelander to carry it.
Well, we'll see, right? We'll see what they can do with it. That's what I'm saying. It would be very interesting to me to see that journey and see where it goes.
I
but
think
anyway,
that show
so I'm
would
into
tank,
that.
like immediately if Homelander was no longer on it. I think that show would tank immediately.
I agree. They need him on it. Now, whether or not he has powers or not, it would be. I think that's because man, look, this is a superhero world, right? Like you can lose powers for an entire year and somehow get them back.
No, I mean, I
right?
mean, there are a myriad of possibilities that they could do with it. I don't know.
Yeah. But no, so check this out though. I'm watching that. I'm totally into this battle. I'm into the fight scene. I'm into everything that happens. The episode ends and it says directed by Nelson Craig. And I'm like, oh crap, I know that guy. I'm friends with him. That's my friend. I didn't even know it. I'm not close friends with him. He was actually roommates with one of my good friends who lives out in LA. And so I knew him back in the day, and I was like, I messaged him on Facebook. I was like, dude, congratulations. And then I checked out his Facebook feed, and it's just covered with boys stuff. And I'm like, oh, I guess it would have been nice if I'd have known. And he was
if you had done your friendly duty and kept in close touch. And
we're not close friends. I mean, like I said, we exchange happy birthdays and stuff like that. But I'm put it this way, I'm friends enough to be like, hey, dude, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Good work. And him actually replying back, being like, thanks, man. Hope everything's good. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like we're actually a friendly acquaintance, but but that was cool. Like I was like, oh crap, I had no idea that he did that, and he directed like one of the best battle sequences I've seen, in terms of the superhero shows on TV. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, it also made me happy for him just in general, because as creators, and artists and things, we're he's part of my graduating class, I guess, is as best as I can describe it. We were all coming into this. I mean, I met him in 2007, I think, when I went out to LA to visit my friend Marcus out there, who's also a very successful advertising director now out there. And it's like, we were all kind of coming into this. Myself, sire artist Dan Leister came out with us. So we were all friends, and it's cool to see like friends get success, because it's inspiring. It inspires us to keep going, or inspires me to keep going. But it also just to kind of like, it's different when you're coming at people before they become something. you know, and you can establish a relationship, so you know it's a genuine relationship with somebody, so you're genuinely wishing them well, not like, wow, I wish I knew that person, or what can I get from this person, you know? It becomes like a different mentality. So it was exciting to see that. But that was my side detour. I flip on Umbrella Academy. And immediately I'm trying to think. It's been 2 years. I'm like, what the heck happened? I barely remember what happened. And in 5 minutes, I'm right back where I was at the end of season 2. I just felt like immediately back in the end of season 2, and I blew through 3 episodes like it was nothing. Like it was absolutely nothing. That doesn't happen for me. Usually I will watch something and then I'll go, all right, that was nice. And I'll be like, all right, I'll watch it again later. This one I was like, nope, I gotta find out what happens. Like the storyline they've set up in season 3 now has managed to continue the exact same feeling. And that's not easy to do in between seasons. Usually there's some sort of, you know, either loss for me in terms of maybe just the time difference, or if something is such a roller coaster ride and gets me to the top, usually I come down by the time the next season comes up, and it takes a lot to build it back up. No, I'm like right back into it. These characters are fun. The show is fun. And it's just as riveting. It's just as riveting as The Boys. So gun to my head, Hassan, here is the big surprise. I don't know what I would choose. I really don't. They are, for different reasons completely for me, equally as exciting because I'm into both shows for different reasons. The big excitement also for me is this is actual TV where I am like, I will figure out a way to watch you. I don't need to be in the right headspace to watch you. I don't need to have, you know, not worked, you know, 12-hour days, and I can just watch it. And I'm like super thrilled to see what comes next. See?
All right. Okay.
Surprised you. I like that. That's shocked you. I shocked your vote. Your face is a shock.
I'm totally, I'm riveted by that.
Our listening audience can't see, but beneath your glasses, your eyes are just wide open.
They're bulging.
What's your take on season 3 of Umbrella Academy?
It was on par with the second one.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this first season was meandering and
yes,
kind of incoherent, and they tied it tightly together by the end. But I haven't watched the first season in like 4 years or whatever, so I have to watch it again. But I thought the second season was exactly as consistently and as solid as I had hoped the first season would have been.
Mm-hmm.
And so the third season is tight again. Like, the nuance of everything is that this is a superpower team, right? Just like the X-Men or the Boys, or, you know, whatever, or the Seven, excuse me, or the Justice League or whatever. And so I always like to see if you're gonna use that aesthetic and then kind of play with it and say, like, you know, what if the Justice League actually were brothers and sisters and they all lived together and they bickered and this and that. I do want to see the soap opera bickering and the you know, their inability to get along, but I also want to see when the chips are down. I want to see, you know, why these guys are superheroes in the first place.
Yeah.
And the first season kind of didn't really do that. You know, this first season was more interested in establishing each of them as an archetypical, like, you know, one of them was like an off-brand Batman, and the other one was like, you know, so like it you know, it got really involved with the time bureau, whatever they call that, and you know, those two assassin characters. There was just too much weight in it.
Yeah.
And these last 2 seasons have concentrated specifically on the Umbrella Academy, you know, on the characters in the Umbrella Academy. I don't mind, you know, long sweeping, you know, narratives. I'm a fan of Game of Thrones, and I'm a bigger fan of those books, which, you know, Game of Thrones, you know, the TV show was a third of the characters that are actually in the books. Right. So obviously there's I have no issue with like long form storytelling, but I don't know who these characters are if you don't focus on them.
Yeah.
And you know, that's another kind of issue I have with The Boys is that, like I say, like without one character, that whole thing falls apart. It's from my perspective. Yeah, because I really don't know. I mean, we know Butcher. We don't really know Mother's Milk too much. We don't know Kamiko. We're getting to know Frenchie a little bit, but of course, you know,
we're getting to know Mother's Milk in this season, though, I would say.
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
like, oh, I lost my family. Okay, gotcha. That's not getting to tragedy. Explaining someone's tragedy isn't getting to know them, right?
No,
It's
but there
just
was that scene with Butcher where Butcher kind of says, he talks about him in the military days and what kind of person he is. So
that's
that's
not getting to know a character. Like I said, that's a backstory. That's someone saying, "Oh, I've suffered. I've been through this," and then that's not. But you don't really know them,
yeah.
right? Like, okay, in comparison, Homelander likes to
Well,
pleasure
sure.
himself at the top of buildings.
Right.
So that's insight into a character you don't have in other characters. That Homelander, I think, is one of the only, if not the only, three-dimensional character there is in that
Mm-hmm.
story, which is crazy because he's a sociopathic murderer.
Yes.
But that's my thing about that story. So, like, you kind of know all the personalities in the Umbrella Academy. You
Yeah.
get to know them, so you could pick your favorites. You could have the ones that annoy you,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But they're all part of one package,
Yeah.
right? Because that's how they've done it. And I think they've done that well in the last two seasons.
Yeah.
So
I,
I'm a fan of the show. So I enjoyed season 3, to answer your question.
yeah. No, I'm telling you, for me to want to just jump right ahead to the next episode is all the proof I need in terms of like what makes a good show. Sometimes I'll want to watch stuff because I hear things about it, and it's like, well, I want to keep up on I want to make sure I'm not going to be spoiled out from somebody, and it's like, so I'll kind of force myself to watch something, or I'll get myself through something. But the Umbrella Academy, that is just pure absolute joy after each episode.
There's a TV show a long time ago. Most of our listeners were not born when it was on, but it was a TV show of the movie Highlander, right?
Mm-hmm.
It had Adrian Paul in it as the titular character. He was one of the two existing Highlanders because they needed to invent a new one for the show. And basically, the show was a concept, basically a monster of the week format, where he would come across an immortal that was a jerk, for the first 2 or 3 acts of the 5-act structure of the television show, and then the last act he would cut the guy's head off. Right? That was that was basically it. That's the story. And you get to a point where you're yes, Aaron, there can be, but
it can be only one.
There can be only one unless it's corporate and they want to make money, and then there's 2.
Yeah.
And it did threaten, but it was 90s television, mind you, so it wasn't as intricate as any television we have now. It could get tedious, theoretically, because it's like, oh, there's a guy, he's a jerk, he's going to get his head cut off. Oh, there's another guy, he's a jerk, he's going to get his head cut off. So every now and then there would be a 3-act story where Duncan MacLeod or whatever, he would do something that had nothing to do with fighting other immortals. You get caught up in a cabin somewhere, some nonsense, and you're like, okay, yeah, you're fleshing the character out, you're broadening the character, right? And then like around week 4 or 5, someone would come out of nowhere and try to kill him, and he'd kill that guy, and you're like, oh, that's why I'm here. I'm here to watch the guy cut someone's head off. I've missed this. And so that's kind of what happens in stories like the Umbrella Academy. That's what went wrong in the first season. It's like, we are here because these guys are superheroes.
Right.
I would like to see them do some superhero-ic stuff. And when they're fighting another team of superheroes, like in the beginning of season 3, you're like, yeah, this is what I'm here for. I am the kid in me is here for the stuff that these people do that nobody else can do. I'm good with all the stories. I'm good with all the development. I'm good with love and unrequited love and love lost and 5 trying to figure out how to mastermind the entire situation. I'm good with all of it, but I do want to see superheroes fighting supervillains.
What they're also good with these characters, and this is not something that's easy. I wish it was. It is actually very easy to do, but most shows don't seem to do that. Is these characters, they have their wisecracks, they have their smile moments, they have their comeback lines and things like that. But there is always genuine fear from those characters also, in terms of, oh crap, I'm fighting for my life here, or I'm fighting to save the world, or I'm trying not to get killed right now. Like there is always a sense of actual danger. Whereas I think a lot of shows out there now, they try to do the Joss Whedon thing where it's like, time to save the world. Yep, just another day for me. And it's like, well, guy,
Yeah, that's what I never liked that element of the Whedonisms and stuff like that. Not as much as the wisecracks, because wisecracks are fine. His dialogue was really sharp and snappy, and you could get away with that for a while.
Yeah.
But eventually, it to me and me alone, because I know you're kind of a fan of that stuff, and that's fine.
I'm a fan of how he did it. I'm not a fan of what people ended up doing with that style, because they would end up neutering, fight scenes, because you're like, well, if I don't care, you know what I mean? Like I would be terrified. Like, I don't care if you've fought a million zombies. If a rush of zombies are coming at you, you should be, you should be doing more than like another day at the office.
People learn the wrong lessons from that, because in their attempt to steal it. But what I didn't like about his in particular is he used it in the space of character development.
Yeah,
it became, because everybody started to sound the same, because they all had the same quips, because they're all written by the same jokester.
Right.
So that's kind of an issue. I do like when there's stakes. I do like when people are, people realize that, hey, I'm fighting for the world here.
Right.
But then, okay, there are times also when they were yelling at Vanya, turned into Victor, when they're yelling at him about ending the world. Like, every time I'm happy, you end the world. That's a kind of Whedonist tongue-in-cheek joke, to a matter-of-fact joke about the stakes. Those things are fine.
Yes.
If people are in the situation that heavy all the time, they're going to have a kind of gallows humor about it. I never had a problem with that.
Right. No, I agree with you. But a lot of shows, they do it while the actual battles are taking place, and you're like, all right, if you don't care about this, or you don't seem to care, or you're not worried that you're going to win or lose, then how do I have any emotional stake in this? Going back to the Homelander fight, like, I genuinely was like, wow, this is an all-out free-for-all battle where Homelander is scared of losing. He's legitimately like, wait a minute, I might lose this. And you're like, oh my God, he might lose this.
Yeah.
Going back, and again, Umbrella Academy, same thing, where it's like,
I'm
thinking about the fight, Five had with the female agent, and I'm like, wow, like, they're actually fighting. Like, I know he's going to be okay, but at least he's showing fear as he's fighting her.
Yeah.
He's like, oh
and
crap,
he's not kind of being tongue in cheek about like, oh, I know I'm going to win this fight, so I've read the script already. There's one thing about the Homelander fight that drives me crazy whenever they do it. Obviously, this is kind of a spoiler. Obviously, Butcher's got he's got the temporary V, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, when he's got the temporary V, that's when Homelander summarily executes him.
Yeah.
And that's always like, so, okay, any time after this, if there's a Homelander, if there's a season 4 or whatever, anytime after this where Homelander doesn't immediately kill Butcher, it's going to make that scene look ridiculous, because there was like a smoldering tension, and you get the impression that the Butcher was only alive because Homelander enjoyed mocking him more than killing him.
Yes.
So, or he felt he was so insignificant that he didn't have to kill him.
Yes.
And so just the fact that he's like, okay, zap, and we're done. I'm done arguing with you. I'm done sparring with you. Zap, and then we're done. It's like there should have been a moment of there should have been a little more nuance there. So you could explain how in all the sequences that come after this, why Homelander doesn't immediately just kill.
Well, I mean, I can give you an easy answer. I can give you an easy answer for both, right? I mean, I think in the progression of Homelander's character in this season now, he really has just shed. I mean, I agree with you to an extent, because I was wondering if who was the head of Vought, the corporate guy, Stan, I think, right, is his name in the show, whatever.
Gus from
Breaking
Bad. Breaking Bad, Gus. Yes, it was Moff Gideon.
Right. So when he's got, I actually thought I was almost expecting him to kill Moff Gideon right there too, because at this point, Homelander's character now is so far off the reservation, and you get to see his psychosis as he's talking to himself in the mirror. I thought he was going to.
You got to be careful with that though, because it becomes one note.
Right. No, but that's
no longer
then
scary.
When he finally sees Butcher, and he sees Butcher trying to, bring up Soldier Boy to stop him, I get why he did it there. And then I can say afterwards, the easy answer is he asks him, what did you do? And he kind of has all these powers. So it's not as if Homelander knows that this is only temporary versus permanent. So I think going into it, the next time they see each other,
Maybe.
Homelander, at least I'm okay in my mind being like, oh, okay. If he doesn't try to kill,
If they explain it, that'll work. That'll be
yeah,
fine. But if they go back to like the their
no,
banter,
I
then
don't think
that's
they
gonna be
can.
like,
No,
come on.
I think the next time they get together,
Maybe so.
Homelander, and you could be right. This is what my hopes for it are. My
But
hopes for it is the next time
narratively,
that they come to each other, Homelander is trying to kill him, just like you said, because he should be. I don't think he should be. There's no cat and mouse at this point. I think, like you said, the ultimate. We need Homelander on the show for the show to work. I think the ultimate outcome is Homelander is going to lose his powers by the end of it, and I think that would just be amazing.
One way or
if he
the other,
did.
definitely Butcher will, to
Oh
some
yeah,
extent. So I mean, but I mean, I'm just talking about it as a narrative trick. I can kill him now, because it's not going to cost me anything. Story, it pertains to the overall story. So he can now be as summarily lethal as he's always threatened to be, only because there's no stakes to it.
yeah.
It's not gonna stick. So that's my only that's my issue
Yeah.
with it.
No, it's intense. All right, what do you guys think? The Boys versus Umbrella Academy. Gun to your head, which one you're choosing? I have no choice. I honestly, I love them both for separate reasons. Usually, I'm very definitive on one versus the other. Two distinctly great character shows for me. So I don't know. I'll choose off air. If I had a gun to my head, I'd actually almost
I don't know
pick
why
Umbrella
it's got to be
Academy
binary, man. Don't choose.
because
Watch
it's
both
fun.
of them.
It's fun. It's all fun and games. All right, coming up next, Fan Expo Philly. I was able to interview Kate Flannery, actress who played Meredith in The Office. She was an unexpected delight. She is just as energetic in person as her character is on the show. Unpredictable. It was a thrill to interview her, and we will air that interview when we return. This is Mike Dolce of the Rogue Wave podcast. Thrilled to be with Kate Flannery of Office fame. Kate, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing? This is me.
Your character in The Office got to do, I think, more of the wild things, got to be more of the breakout character. How much was that just a natural evolution for you of your own personality, or was that you pushing for it, or how'd that happen?
You know what? I did not push. I was asked to do my own stunt when I got hit by a car, and we sort of started. That's when it all sort of began. That was like season 4, where suddenly I'm like, oh, so I'm doing most of my own stunts. We always had stunt people, but I always thought it was funnier if I did it, because it's funnier if it's the real person. So I love doing physical comedy. So I just feel like I always had my own weird lane on the show, and I just loved it. I love that even after 9 seasons, they didn't really stray from that chess game. Like, I like that they still kept it odd and weird for Meredith. I had a great time.
How much of it was improv, and how much was it like stick to the script?
It was mostly written. The only time, there's a few lines I improvised here and there, and the only scene that was fully improvised was when Michael Scott drags Meredith into rehab. That entire scene was improvised. I think they were going to do like a voiceover afterwards, but they actually liked what we did. So yeah, there was a little bit of a voiceover, but I thought the whole, anyway, it was a nice, pleasant surprise.
Take us back to the early years where the threat of cancellation was there, to what it is now. The Office has become, I mean, it's grown on its own myth almost.
Well, first season, I actually kept my restaurant job because I didn't know if we were going to get picked up. So I covered my shifts during the week, and I worked my Sunday brunch. That's how uncertain I was. And then when we finally got picked up, I waited until we were beginning filming season 2, and 40-Year-Old Virgin was coming out at the same time. So it was like, so Steve was blowing up, and then I realized, oh, we have him, so we're in good shape. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And now I feel like people, they say, I watch you every night before I go to sleep, which normally would be creepy, but I don't mind. It's fine. You can watch away.
I got to tell you, my wife is actually extremely jealous. I'm talking to you right now. She picked it up. She,
I'm sorry.
she picked up The Office like a lot of people did on Netflix, not having seen it through the original run, whereas I was already like, oh, you're just catching on to this? Talk to me about the Comic-Con experience and meeting the fans.
The Office fans are the best fans in the world, and this is true because our show is like a slice of life, and I feel like because the pandemic, people couldn't go to their real office, they came to ours. So I feel like there's even more affection because I felt like we were sort of normal. Like people felt normal when they watched The Office, which is hilarious because they're the biggest weirdos. But but I get, but it totally makes sense to me. So I'm very proud. I think I'll always be proud of The Office, and I it's. You can never predict this kind of trajectory for any show, and you hope that you can make somebody laugh and that you don't get arrested for being too dirty. What am I saying? But thank God it wasn't NBC and wasn't HBO, so I'm good. My parents are not too happy about the nudity, but that's that's how it goes.
Last question. What is your favorite scene for your character in the show?
It's hard to pick one, but I did love the Meredith dragged into rehab, but I also loved there was a whole scene where the intervention during the Christmas party. That was like one of my favorite things to shoot. Yes, there were so many. Don't make me pick one, but it's so fun. I liked getting hit by a car. It was fun to do that. Don't try it at home though. Old boyfriends that are like showing that over and over again.
Kate, this has been a pleasure. I thank you so much as well.
I'm a Philly girl, and my dad owned a bar here in Philadelphia for years, Flannery's Tavern in Germantown. Well, nice town, so yeah.
We got to get you an Always and Sunny in Philadelphia then.
Well, all right. I'll stop turning them down.
This has been Mike Dolce from the Rogue Wave podcast with Kate Flannery. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. I want to thank Jerry Milani and Fan Expo Philly for getting us that interview along with our clerks interviews. I had to stand back a lot because of the COVID precautions, and so I tried to get the microphone right up to her, but she was a little low on that. But we'll adjust in the audio file. So if you go there, you go. Download us on Spotify and Spreaker and Apple and all that stuff, and you'll get it even bigger there. Now, this has been a tremendous show. I love the boys' conversation. I love the Umbrella Academy discussion because, quite frankly, you can tell when we're actually into something, or at least when I'm actually into something, like wholeheartedly, like how deep we go into it. Stranger Things comes back next week, sir.
This week.
Well, I know, but for our next week's show, it's going to be exciting.
Yes, I'm excited.
I can tell because you're perfectly still. Right
I'm
now.
actually more excited for Stranger Things than I was for the other two shows that we discussed. So
wow, I'm going Umbrella Academy. I'm going Stranger Things 3 out of that. I'm going Umbrella Academy 1, Boys 2, Stranger Things 3. Believe it or not, amazingly enough, I have to rank them. I did come up with it.
I don't rank. Ranking is not the thing I do.
We have action hero Yulia Class coming out next week. She has starred opposite Steven Seagal, Jason Momoa, Bruce Willis. She was in one of his final movies before he announced his illness and had to take a reprieve from acting. So we've got an interview with her coming up next week. We've got the next episode of Data Decoded coming out next week. So that's a little Rogue Matter stuff. So you get a double dose of me next week. I mean, basically, you just got to be here. I think you just got to be here, and you got to be a part of this this show experience that we call Rogue Wave. So we will see you guys next week. Hi guys, Mike Dolce here from the Rogue Wave podcast. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. Leave a comment, let us know what you'd like to see in future episodes, and tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, for a brand new episode of the Rogue